Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2020 action film Top Gunner. This is a film that is directed by Daniel Lusko and it stars Eric Roberts, Carol Ann Watts, Julian Cavatt, Revis Dorsey, Buck Burns and Shane Hartigan. Now then, with the unfortunate gap in the box office market this year, with the sequel to Top Gun not arriving as it was expected, The Asylum, yes, The Asylum, has decided to plug that gap by sneaking in there with their version of a Top Gun film, imaginatively called Top Gunner. Now, what is this film about? This film focuses on essentially there is some kind of chemical weapon that, or like a virus, etc., that the US Black Ops team manages to get a hold of away from, I think it's Russian hands, and their plane is damaged, so they have to land on like a US Air Force base that is there basically just to train cadets. These 4 or 5 cadets who are like, training to be, ace fighter pilots. So they arrive on this base and immediately they all have to band together in order to protect this bomb-struck virus from falling back into the enemy hands, as they're going to do everything in their power to try and get it back. So they have to, go up and have lots of dogfights, whereas at the same time there's like a ground team that tries to walk it out of there. That's basically the story that you're getting here, if we can call it that, I suppose. Now, as you could probably guess from my uninspired response here, this is not a great film. No. To be honest, I mean, it's an Asylum film, Love them or hate them, they keep churning out these cheap and I suppose occasionally cheerful movies that are there to try and entertain and just try and give people, if you like, a very simple, easy movie to watch. And on some level I do respect that, you know what I mean? I've seen a number of Asylum films. I think occasionally there are some good ideas in some of the films, but let's be honest, this is just a blatant rip-off of Top Gun, and it was made to try and go on the back of the Top Gun sequel. But obviously it can't ride that wave now because the Top Gun sequel has been delayed, so they've put it out there now. Is it a good film? No. It really isn't a good film. There are some dodgy performances here. Eric Roberts, to be fair, is in it for a decent portion of this film. Eric Roberts is Eric Roberts. You know what you're going to get here. It's kind of a phoned-in performance. It's the kind of, I mean, it's so cheap, and you can see it throughout the film here. It's a training base, but there's only like 4 cadets on there. That's it. There's nobody else there. They're all terribly cliched, characters, these cadets, bolshe, arrogant, confident, all that kind of stuff. They're like, well, they're basically like, Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer's character and Goose, and they're all like versions of those characters. Not interesting at all. They didn't give us any interesting characters in this film. Usually, no matter how cheap or low budget a film is, if you can write some interesting characters in it, it will, generally speaking, carry the film forward. But unsurprisingly, we don't get that here. We get really generic characters. Every single one of them in this film is completely and utterly forgettable, even though they try and give them these ridiculous conversations to try and, make them more interesting. But what they give them to talk about is, well, I couldn't tell you any of the conversations that they had, really. It was terrible. And this is, you know, this is like a training place for cadets, and these people turn up out of the blue with this virus, stroke, bomb, whatever, and one of the cadets actually phones home on his mobile phone to tell them that he won't be home for the holidays because these people have just turned up on the base. And you're just kind of thinking, what? Would anybody I mean, they do address it in the film and says, oh, one of your men has just done something really stupid. You're not kidding. And all they barely even tell him off. I mean, he would be thrown in jail cells. He'd be court-martialed, thrown in jail cells. You name it, they'd throw the book at him. And they just kind of say, oh, that was a bit silly, wasn't it? I mean, it's madness. But that's how this film moves the plot forward. He makes this phone call, so therefore it puts a bullseye on the base, because the enemy was, you know, listening in on that conversation, clearly. Now, a film like this, it's got to have lots of dogfights in the sky, hasn't it? This has a decent amount of them. Are the effects okay? They're passable. There's a couple of impressive dogfights here and there, but most of the time it's fairly substandard CGI and lots of shots of actors in cockpits, sort of thing. It's certainly not gonna, you know, overly excite you, those sequences, but there's enough of them in the film to make it passable, certainly. And it's the sort of film where the bad guys just turn up, you know, dressed in black, and they basically just turn up to give the good guys somebody or something to shoot at. So it's a fairly uninteresting plot, fairly uninteresting characters, fairly uninspired CGI, etc. So lo and behold, what can I give this film apart from a 2 out of 10? It's terrible. There's a reason this is scoring so poorly on places like IMDb. Sometimes I really don't agree with IMDb scores, but unfortunately I do have to agree with them here. This is not a good film. It's not even a so bad it's good film, it's just a bad film. But you know, if you want to have a laugh with it with your mate, it's one of those, get the pizzas in, get the beers in, get your mates round and have a right good giggle. Watch Top Gun first and then watch this, and just have a laugh, I suppose. So that's my review for Top Gunner. Certainly one to avoid, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please consider clicking the like button, and if you are new to the channel, thank you very much for joining us, and please consider subscribing as well. So thanks very much, everybody. I will be back with more content on Screen Stars very, very soon.